What's up, everybody? Welcome to Explore with Gore. I'm James Gore. In this podcast, we're going to go through and do some deep downloads on the issues that are most relevant, that you hear about or you see about or are on your mind. And then also some of the stuff that's in the background that's important too. It's a great time. I'm in my last year of 12 years on the Board of Supervisors representing North County, but also laying in on countywide issues all around the place and regional and statewide stuff. But it's a great opportunity to kind of get some of this out, talking about homelessness, water, housing, fire, all these things that we have gone through and that we continue to go through. But for the first episode, essentially our practice run.
And I will be hosting, and James will be in the hot seat for this one. My name is Harry Hubbell. I'm one of the newest members of staff. And fun fact, I've actually known James since I was in high school, and I graduated in 2016, just 10 years ago. Absolutely wild. But I really
You're like
just
20 years younger than me.
I know, almost exactly. I remember having
It's funny,
this
I was always
conversation.
the young one, and now not so much.
I know. Well, now, and it's funny because I'm starting to not feel like the young one anymore.
Yeah.
But I really just wanted to start by saying, James, you're looking very casual today.
Yeah. I'm feeling casual.
Nice.
You can see it's the 65th anniversary of the Peace Corps, and I'm a RPCV, a returned Peace Corps volunteer. You don't say you're a former Peace Corps volunteer. You say I'm a returned Peace Corps volunteer because of the three goals of the Peace Corps, really, to go and help, to learn while you're there, and then to bring it home. The idea is that you're always bringing the lessons you learn from around the world back home too. So I got that, and then I'm just it's my last year, so I'm really reflective of the fact that I've always done this in the vision of being a public servant, not a politician. I don't feel like suiting up today. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we'll kind of extrapolate on that a little bit. This, it's hard to believe, but it is your 12th year as a county supervisor. Why did you decide not to run again or continue the Senate campaign?
So 10 years, I would say at that point, I feel like the service that I've been involved in with our community here has really been about everyday everythings. Sure, permits, potholes, what some people think is mundane, but like constituent issues. But really these times have been defined by a lot of tumultuous, chaotic disasters. So, on the natural disaster side, fires, floods, drought that perpetuated both of those, pandemic, a global pandemic. At the same time, issues and societal clashes, let's just be very real, like the roaring social media and the culture issues that are going on. It's just been one of those times that's been honestly awesome for me to serve. Like I wouldn't have it any other way. I like to step up when it's needed, not just when it's casual and easy. But at the same time, I've lived it. And I really felt about 10 years in that I had not only done it locally, I'd done it regionally, chairing a bunch of regional things on conservation, water management with tribes and other counties. And then I was also 4 years elected by my peers and was the president of the California State Association of Counties, allowed me to stretch and take things from Sonoma there. And then I just finished up being the president and finishing up a 4-year term of being elected by my peers around the country for the National Association of Counties, all 3,069 counties around this country. And I feel like I've really done it and filled it up. And I never looked at this as a career. I looked at it as a term of public service. I used to tell people I thought 10 years would be good. And so I'll just quickly say that I jumped in the state Senate race. I realize now, after raising $400,000 and having consultants and staff and running all over the place, is that what I thought were little doubts were actually deep dread that I had to come to terms with, which is I can't go off to Sacramento for 8 months out of the year during the middle of the week and still be the kind of dad and husband and community member that I want to be. So I kept hammering through them. I think a sign of one part of success is working your way through doubt, because we all have doubts, and overcoming that but I just couldn't come to terms with the fact that I was going to miss the magic moments. And so right now, I've decided that it's time for me to focus where it needs to be. So instead of doing community events and instead of campaigning, I am at volleyball tournaments. On the weekends, I am at Boy Scout campouts. I am out doing fishing and hunting and hiking with my family and my friends. And I'm still going to do stuff that's important to my community and stay connected, but it's time.
I love that. I love that. And truly, those are important years that, it is always worth the investment of time. And that's big.
Yeah.
So, I mean, mathematically, a quarter of your lifetime in the supervisor seat.
No way.
I think so. 12 years?
4 is 48. Yeah, I'm going to turn 48 in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
You're absolutely
slightly more,
right.
actually.
Quarter of my freaking life.
Yeah, it's
Good
super
Lord.
weird.
Yeah, it's I really believe that what what makes our communities the best around this country, around this world, is service. I love the idea of service above self from Rotary. I love the ethos that took me into the Peace Corps. My dad was a Peace Corps volunteer, right, in Fiji back in the 60s, and I was in the early 2000s in Bolivia. I met my wife there. We met through service. I think service is really what the world needs more of, rather than people just pointing at others and hoping that systems and other people get things done and do what's right. And so for me, the fact that these 12 years in my community, before that, I was a leader, a presidential appointee in the Obama administration at the Department of Ag on rural affairs and food and feeding programs, and then before that in the Peace Corps. And then in the middle, private sector, it's an honor to serve.
Well, that actually brings me to my next question, which is, how were you initially drawn to public service? And it sounds like deep family roots and, a history of serving, but could you extrapolate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it in a way that I think is very direct, which is I tried a bunch of stuff out that was like business, ag business. I grew up, my dad was a farmer, my mom in business and in teaching. And I just kept touching different things as I got late into high school and into college. And I was always looking for that thing that lit the fire. I just believed when people said, find something you're passionate in and it'll never feel like work. And so I kept looking until I found it. And and you look and you'll find.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to go through the doubt and the down times and the uncertainty, but service is a high calling, and I'm thankful to the world and the universe and God that I'm in a position to have served and to continue to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
What sort of lessons from your family and upbringing would you say you still carry with you and help guide you today? And I know, you hold family very close.
Well, I think there's the past, but there's the future. So, I mean, I could say from my upbringing, I mean, I had an absolutely amazing mom who, even though she did work and did things in the community and other stuff, she was very clear that her mission was to be a great mom. Mm-hmm. And so I carry that forward with my kids. And so, my father was an outdoorsman. He was rugged. He was, kind of the side of me that's like the camo wearing outside. But my mom was also caring. And so that's where I get like the side of individuals who need help, who need a hand to rise up. And so I mix those kind of things, but I also like to see things get done in the world. I like progress. I don't like, so that idea of getting stuff done, getting stuff done each and every day is such a pivotal thing that I believe also through my dad is like he used to say, I'm not afraid of a shovel, and success is a hard day's work, right? And my mom taught me to follow my heart. So those things are good, but I'll just say that having met my wife in service, and my wife's an absolute badass, and she's just an amazing, amazing businesswoman, mother, wife, philanthropist, all those other things, and us raising our kids. I tell people one of the main reasons I do this work is because I refuse to subject my children to a pessimistic future.
Yeah, I've heard you say that a few
others
times
as well. So it's deep. It's
yeah.
important.
No, I've taken that quote and used it myself several times. Well, kind of going forward and, into some of these, sort of trials and tribulations, these 12 years haven't always been easy. There's been, fires, floods, global pandemic, other disasters. How have those experienced really shaped you as a leader?
Yeah. Well, in some ways they've shaped me to rise up and be a leader and be the one stepping forward and rally people around. And in other ways, it's really taught me that leadership is what they call followership. In the aftermath of our fires, the most important thing I could do as a leader was be a community organizer and rally all of these fire survivors who were scared, frustrated, grieving, and empower them to be what we created, which was block captains, so that they were basically each neighborhood that burnt down had individuals who would be a part of like a rebuild Congress that would ultimately represent either 5 houses or 500. And, to me, empowering them and then them saying I was a great leader and me being like, well, you're giving me my marching orders. That kind of stuff was magic because that's true community. And those lessons, they permeate each and every day to me.
100%. So much more of a sort of bottom-up approach as opposed to a top-down approach to leadership.
One of our former governors, Jerry Brown, who I really admire, he used to talk about the this philosophy of subsidiary, which is that government's at its best when it's closest to the people that it serves, because you can't go off and serve when you're removed from the impacts of your decisions. And I think that's also a part of me just, having the ability to serve as a county supervisor, which is a full-time job every day. You have a staff. You're always driving things forward. You're always responding to needs. It's been pretty awesome. I'll say the pandemic was a tough time for all of us. It was so crazy to be in government, in the royal we of government, that all you were telling people was no, you got to shut your business. You got to do this. It doesn't make sense to you. Some of it doesn't make sense to me. This is what the state's doing. This is what I have control over. During fires and floods and other things, I'm somebody who really loves to rally with people. And in the pandemic, you couldn't do that because it was there wasn't a lot to rally towards. I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of people don't talk about the pandemic is because it was really hard. Yeah. And people don't want to go back and talk about frustrating times.
No, I mean, truly, the pandemic times, I think, it's wild to think we're 6 years past that. Yeah. But, I think that's still very fresh and, those wounds are still there for a lot of people. Yeah. Looking beyond these crises, what is the most frustrating part of serving in these roles, would you say?
Well, the first thing I'll say is my pet peeve is absolutely, I define it in a funny way. I'd say the thing that really frustrates me is strongly held, lightly informed opinions. Strongly held, lightly informed opinions. And what that means is like if you're going to be fired up, be willing to know what you're fired up about. Be willing to challenge your assumptions. Be willing to dig in and do the work. Don't just chat GPT it. Don't just read a headline. Don't assume that's what's written in your local news source or comes on Facebook or on the social media is what the whole picture is. And it's fascinating how incongruent we live our lives, how we don't want people to judge us based upon one or another thing, that we're all multidimensional people. But when it comes to issues that we judge, that we just live in a society that jumps to judgment because everything's so flashy and it's like a dopamine rush and it's all fired up. So for me, what does that mean? Like over the years dealing with so many frustrated people, sometimes righteously so, and sometimes total BS, is I think one of the lessons that I've always learned is that you got to toughen up, but you also have to. I call it you want to develop calluses without becoming callous. a great leader, Sonny McPhee, who was a former supervisor, looked at me one time and said, "I just want you to know, young man, it's not thick skin, it's scar tissue." And I thought that was great. And then I also realized that as I developed that scar tissue, I was in danger of losing my empathy for a single mother who's lost a job and has 2 kids that walk into the chambers, and that I had to find ways to be tough, but not to have that limit my sensibility or sensitivity.
Absolutely.
With people. Yeah.
Well, and that is extra. And just, briefly circling back, I've been lucky enough to know you for a while, and the amount of times you have brought up your mother to me, and the empathy she shared with you, and her view of the world is impressive. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And losing one's empathy is, in my opinion, one of the worst things.
It's really interesting in our individual lives, and then in society as a whole, and even in groups, we find ourselves talking so much about the problems and not the good things that are going on. In the news, it's a classic thing is that there's things happening each and every day in our communities, in our county, and otherwise that are amazing. But it's not what's written about. And one of the reasons it's not written about it is because people don't click on that stuff all the time. It's not like the evil media. It's the fact that if you look at like the online of the top read stories, it's stuff that people are like, oh, car crash, this shooting, this. Yeah. And in our own lives, oftentimes we talk too much about the individual who's dysfunctional in the family, not the 7 that are functional. Yeah. For me, that's been a big lesson with my mom is making sure that you don't give negativity your physical time, but you also got to guard against giving it your psychic and mental time. Yeah. Because you don't want to sit there at night thinking for 2 or 3 hours about the jerk. Yeah. Because it fires you up, So how do you get into a place of gratitude and a headspace? I think this being my service, being really a living laboratory of all these, kind of things happening each and every day. It's every day is very different. You could be doing like homelessness at 8 a.m., water policy at 9 a.m., housing at 10 a.m., switch over to mental health and crisis stabilization. Then you do a briefing on fire management. Then you go over to the jail system. It's great for a generalist, but there's so much coming at you that you got to figure out a way to manage it and be healthy.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Other kind of sidebar, you were talking about scar tissue and, the scars of public service. Do you want to talk about that a little bit through potentially your tattoos? And
what do they say? Tattoos are scars with better stories? Yeah. No, scars are tattoos with better stories.
Ah, you're right. Okay, see it.
It's not that. So I don't have... that is funny. I will say, since you asked, that this is fun because I have other tattoos, but they're family. I have like from my infant son when he was born, his hands. I have from my infant daughter when she was born. I have her feet on my back. I have my California bear claw with 7 generations in the paw, which are like tree rings, which is my family in California. We've been here for 7 generations now.
Love it.
I have the eagle from the presidential crest because I was an appointee in the Obama administration, and I was inspired and loved working and serving at that time and for that president. Yeah. And then the only thing that's really visible is our fires and all the elements, earth, wind, fire, all of our disasters, and the regrowth. So
I love it.
Our redwoods and our regrowth coming out of the fires. So I got these roots, and my wife really encouraged me to finally put one that I couldn't hide.
Nice.
Down. So
good.
I think it's the right one.
Yeah. No, I remember you saying always a lot to people who, were complimenting you on like, oh, this is like, you're either effective or, so good at this. And you're like, well, just wait till you meet my wife because you think, this is impressive. You have no idea. And, as someone that's been lucky enough to know Elizabeth, no offense, I do think, Elizabeth is extremely impressive.
Heck yeah. On that note, as people come up to you, it's funny because one of the things I've had to learn is not to either accept the hate, but also the compliments.
Yeah.
Right? It's like somebody could come up to me at 9 a.m. and point their finger on my chest and be like, you are just another politician, you SOB, I saw this, I read this, and just hammer me. Then I could have then I could leave that meeting or that encounter, like on the plaza, and then I could go somewhere else, and I go and it'll be 10 minutes later, and I'll have somebody come up to me, look at me, and say, I just want to thank you. You're a true public servant. You helped us so much during the fires. You gave us vital information. You showed up. You delivered, and it's like that's a big chasm of like, how do you meet moderation by averaging extremes? I say, so in a way you can't just like not believe the criticism and then believe the adoration. You kind of got to just level set yourself in between it, and not get too high or too low, because otherwise you're on a yo-yo.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you're quite sure of yourself. And I think that, we've spoken about this, that comes with, years and, working through things, but not allowing your happiness to be conducive on the last interaction that was had, negative or positive, I think is always a good thing.
Yeah.
So I
haven't always been sure of myself, and I'm not always sure of myself. It's funny what people see and what you go through, and that's kind of a part of this too. And I think, showing the vulnerability. I mean, there's been times where I've been broken down in this work, and lost, and then I've found myself in it, and I think we got to be honest to ourselves as individuals that all of these things that we do, they seem to poke our buttons.
Yeah.
If you put a little risk on there. So, yeah.
100%. And even I'll go off script for a second. One of the things I admire about you most. No, come on. No. I mean, it's not. It's true. Like, and I think I've spoken with a lot of different people about this. Was including my father, who is a man who's very comfortable in his emotions, and watching you get emotional during our fires. I think that really. That spoke to a lot of people, and you felt it, and it showed.
People, what you be who you want to be. I always used to say when I ran for office is I wanted to be the person that I wanted to vote for.
Yeah.
So what do I want to see in somebody who's in a public position? I want to see authenticity. So don't fake emotion. Don't not fake emotion. Be authentic.
Yeah.
Tell people, I don't know, but I'm going to fight for you.
Yeah.
So
no, I mean, truly something I admire. We're going to move on to a funny term that I think most people around you are somewhat familiar with, but it is the Goreisms, as they say, or as we like to call them. Imperfect, relentless progress, ground truth, get stuff done. These sorts of mantras. What do they mean to you? Because you have a huge amount of them.
Yeah, I get some people, like I had one guy who's like, you kind of got your shtick. You got your sayings. I'm like, yeah, they resonate with me. I find these things. I used to write a lot. I think of them as like as a title to a poem or something that I would want to.
Nice.
I used to journal and write through, or like a spoken word thing. So, and they usually come out of like something that's just inspiring. So why not live an inspired life?
I couldn't agree more.
Why not? So, I mean, there's this one, and I use this tagline, GSD for get stuff done. And we know but where it came from was I was interviewing a fire captain, a fire chief, Marshall Tuberville, total tough guy, an awesome community asset during our fires. And I called it Mornings with Marshall. And at the end of one of my interviews with him, and we were going through where the fire line was and where the bulldozers were and what areas we were watching and, what the conditions were. He looks at me and says, anything else? And I was like, I didn't even realize it. I was like, no, we just need to get stuff done. And he laughs. And later I find that written in a local newspaper. And so we start going with GSD because that's like a mantra in your fire recovery is we need to do stuff. We need to get stuff. We need to, you need to jump on it while it's hot. because that thing that has burnt your community, that heat, it can be used to mold and forge the future in your community. There's this philosophy called the behavioral heuristic, or the availability heuristic, and it really means that something's only important for as long as it stays in your mind. So there's these adages like never waste a crisis.
Yeah.
And that's what it means, is that as that crisis gets further away, people start to care less.
Yeah.
And that's tough on those impacted, and it's tough to do a rebuild. So
100%.
Grabbing onto stuff when it's time.
Yeah.
There's another one that is like, I talk about ground truth a lot, and that comes from my days doing conservation and leading conservation around the country in the Obama administration. And that's because we would get these ideas as people in big offices or doing policy or doing budget, and you had to check the ground truth. You had to see if the people who were doing the work, if it was working.
Yeah.
So if you're on the board and you allocate money to homelessness operations, you need to know if those programs are working on the ground, or if they are the ones that the people who are doing the services want you to do.
Yeah.
You can't have good intentions and then blow it up.
Yeah.
So I have these things that I stay with, like during our fire recovery, I used to say, the only real progress in this world is imperfect, relentless progress, because that defined this idea of imperfection and us, attacking it. So for me, it's, I get these adages, but I try to use them to rally others by rallying myself.
Yeah.
Because you can't inspire others if you're not inspired.
Couldn't agree more.
So
Yeah. You got to feel it yourself.
yeah.
So we haven't really touched much in terms of partisan politics yet, but so I think unfortunately we're going to dive in a little bit.
Not too much, right?
No. Of course,
Okay.
not too much. But just because in many ways I do, you are a registered Democrat, but I view you as someone that is able to work really effectively across the political spectrum at the county and, local, state, California level. Do you want to extrapolate on that a little bit?
Oh yeah, I'm just I always endeavor to be somebody who is either bipartisan or post-partisan or nonpartisan. And I say that because I am a unifier. I'm not an antagonist.
Yeah.
I like to debate issues, not people. So yeah, I mean, I am my mother's son. I'm a empathetic person who believes in the good that government can do and has been a part of it.
Yeah.
And is also my father's son, who has seen government waste and thinks at times people need to step up and take care of themselves. But I've been a registered Democrat my whole life, and I'm proud of that. And and also being the president of like the National Association of Counties or the California Association of Counties, I had to make sure that solutions that we were working on and voices were across the political spectrum. I had to make sure that folks in Wyoming, ranchers in Wyoming, and business people in Fresno were thriving as much as individuals in coastal California or in New York.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's inspiring to not give into that. I don't. I have huge issues with politics right now. I have huge issues with this administration and the far right, the destruction and the intentional disruption. But at the same time, it's funny because I've always been in a position where I've also been attacked as not being. At times I've been attacked for not being progressive enough, far left enough, and then I've been attacked for being too progressive. And you know what? I'm proud that we've leaned in on issues and on service and on delivering results.
Yeah.
Not things that I look back and it's like I can say we're better on fire and emergency management. We're better on water. We're better on our budget. We're better with all these other things. I'm not just like saying, hey, we pass an ordinance
Yeah.
that does this.
No, results based, like actually, as you say, getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Well, kind of moving on from that, how do you deal with the sort of attacks and critics that really come with set in stone preconceived opinions and notions on, the things you're doing and maybe even on who you are as a person.
Yeah. I think I love accountability. I tell that to constituents all the time. Hold me accountable. Like we need to be responding to you. We need to be responsive. We need to be clear with you. We need to tell you no, even if you don't like it, if it's not achievable, or if we're not in alignment, so we can't play you along. But then there's this other side, which is just absolute chaos, and especially these days, stalkers, critics who spend tons of time researching you and tens or hundreds of hours and stalking you and putting out things. And it's amazing that somebody can spend that much time researching you and get it completely wrong, because what they're doing is researching to try and prove a preconceived notion based on something else. So we deal a lot with what I call chaos agents here, people who come in, they're frustrated at life, or it's something that they're dealing with on their own, or it's come from a different place. And I just happen to be the person in this position. And if I challenge you, then you're going to come at me and I'm a horrible person. But I don't like to either incite people who have to be heard. And I also don't suffer bullies well. And so if somebody's calling me out or my staff out or our county people out, I step up, because I think it's I have to. I just have to. It's imperative. So that means I have my fair share of haters and dissidents and stalkers and even a restraining order at time. So, you know what? I don't want to get too far into that. I kind of leave that there, but I just would say you have to find the purpose in this work, because there is always going to be the angst. It's a yin and yang. So you gotta push the positive and find the purpose, because that allows you to work yourself through and sustain you through the difficulty and the hate and the shame.
Nice. Yeah. We're going to move on to something a lot more positive now. Conservation work.
One of my biggest passions.
And I know like you have a long history of conservation work. Do you want to get into that a little bit and just how this has become such a priority for you?
Well, I grew up in agriculture, and then I also grew up, as I say, as an outdoorsman. I'm a hunter and a fisherman. I do that in a very ethical way of honoring the harvest, honoring animals, honoring fish, honoring what I'm doing. And that led me to not just have a degree in ag business, but then to move heavily into the values, human-based values, the other planet-based values of how we manage the world as we also feed ourselves. And so, I was the assistant chief nationally for the National Natural Resources Conservation Service at the U.S. Department of Ag. So I worked at the intersection of farming and conservation, so that we could work with farmers to not just farm crops, but farm animal habitat, clean water, clean air, and it can happen. And so I just love, and I grew up on the Russian River, so I do all this work on the Russian River and bringing groups together, and not just doing the conservation work, but also floating the river together. We did the 110-mile stretch with a group of farmers, ranchers, regulators, environmentalists, tribal members, community groups. So we find camaraderie. So a lot of that stuff, it just really, there's a permanence to it. One of the most difficult things about my job is all of us trying to manage society. Those who are hungry, those who have jobs but they're not living wage jobs, those who are out of work, those who are dealing with government morass, those who are dealing with difficulties. You know what I mean? Like we managing society, I really like to focus, if I have my druthers, I like to focus on natural systems that are the underpinning for societies.
Nice. I think that goes far. And that actually kind of ties in to, the roles you've taken at both NACO and CSAC. So I guess my question is, how have you seen these roles for yourself have tangible benefits for, your constituents and really all of Sonoma County?
Yeah. Well, if you do this work and you're focused locally, first of all, you realize that there's many decisions that are made that you need to be involved with that trickle down to you. The biggest thing for counties is what happens at the state level, whether it's unfunded mandates like, hey, you have to do this, but we're not going to give you the budget to do it. Or good ideas with unintended consequences, where all of a sudden, one program will be defunded that's working and another program will be funded, and you'll be sitting in the middle going, we were achieving success and you didn't have that ground truth.
Yeah.
So the way that you do that is you take your ground truth to them rather than expecting it to come to you. So doing that at both the state level and leading the 58 counties in California as the president there, and then doing it at the national with 3,069 counties, boroughs, and parishes, for me was all about ground truth. It was about Sonoma County's lessons, then our regional lessons, like what's going on the North Bay, North Coast, and then how do I deliver back home? So, I'll give you, an example would be right now we at NACO, at the National Association of Counties, we have a bipartisan bill that has a ton of support called the FEMA Act that has changes to FEMA and disaster management, and the Stafford Act, which is the enabling legislation for disaster management. And those came from our lessons here in Sonoma County, and then pulling together with folks from throughout California, Texas, Florida, Puerto Rico, others, and then finding a place to push it. And with California, our needs for our $6 billion on broadband, our $100 million in FEMA recovery funds, all these things are because you fight for them.
Yeah.
So you can't get stuck in your bubble here, but you also can't get lost out there. So for me, that's been the goal of that work. And I learned, as I said before, about when I was running for state senate, I thought maybe I'd find that there, but the family issue was number one, which I was dealing with. But I was also realized how much I'm grounded in community, and how now's not the time for me to go be on the road and be gone.
Speaking of being grounded in community, what is unique about representing large swaths of unincorporated Sonoma County?
Yeah, for people who don't really know, cities are called incorporated areas. That means they drew lines and they manage the majority of their day-to-day business of their constituents within those cities. Yeah. So even though I represent Cloverdale as a county supervisor, Cloverdale, Healdsburg, Windsor, portions of Santa Rosa as incorporated cities, I don't manage the police. I don't manage the roads. I don't manage the lights, the parks, right? In unincorporated areas, i.e. Geyserville, Alexander Valley, Dry Creek Valley, Knights Valley, bigger communities that are unincorporated like Mark West, Larkfield, Wickiup. In my district specifically, and then countywide we have them as well. I'm that day-to-day everything, like the de facto, I'm not the community mayor, but that's what it is. It's the planning, the development, what gets built, what gets approved, how the roads are, the curbs and gutters, all those services. And then countywide, we also, as county representatives, we manage the budgets for the sheriff, the DA, which are independently elected, but that system. So we do the jail. We also do all health and human services projects. So in the cities, all those constituents who are involved in welfare programs, food and feeding, job works programs, but also on the health side, the intersection with our hospitals and our clinics. Yeah. So all those are there too. So I would say that it's really funny to find where you have direct authority and where you have influence, and how to do those and respect the people who are on cities, but also lean in and help them. And that's been a fun part of this, deciding like, hey, we're going to do all these projects on the county city line in Cloverdale. Yeah. And then we're going to do this in Geyserville. And then what does Windsor want to do with us? So it's been fun.
No, and it's been cool to see the different things happening across the county over the last few years. Speaking of the county, what do you view as some of the most pressing issues that are kind of on the horizon of this county we all love and call home?
Yeah, the natural resource the issues are always going to be the underpinning for everything. I mean, you have to. We have lived in a time of drought, heavy drought that now is in this battle back and forth with what we call weather whiplash, which is a ton of rain, but it manifesting in storms more than in flooding rather than slow percolating, gentle precipitation that's extended throughout the year. And then obviously our fires, our mega fires, having gone through 4 to 5 of those, emergency management, like all that stuff. We can't become complacent when we have a good couple of years.
Yeah.
We always have to be focused on conservation of water. We always have to be focused on fire mitigation and management and prescribed burns. And we always have to make sure that we practice and use those muscles so that us as a county, but then out into our partners and tribes and schools and others have resilience built in. So resilience is, to me, a very big thing. The economy is not in a good place right now with increasing costs on everything. It's less available work and increasing costs on everything, impact of tariffs, the wine market going down. So working with the private sector to find the way that government can become a solution is there.
Yeah.
And then the big thing is that these federal bills that have passed, H.R. 1, the big bill that Trump promoted, is really a $1 trillion cost shift to America's counties over 10 years. So we're getting cuts from the federal government, but it doesn't mean that we can stop giving emergency care to individuals who were mandated to serve at clinics or emergency centers. It doesn't mean that people who don't eat, that we're not going to still be doing food programs.
Yeah.
So it's weird to say it's cut, but that need is still there. So yeah, there's a lot coming, but at the county level, you just have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
You're always there and you're always going to do it. Some nonprofits rise and fall, others maintain for a long time, but counties are always going to be there.
This is true.
Yeah. So.
Well, moving on to a slightly lighter note.
Yeah.
What projects are really exciting you right now?
Oh, I'm always inspired. I've talked earlier about the river, and we have some work that we want to do to continue to increase public access along the Russian River, especially in the mid-reach, which is northern Sonoma County, kind of my district. Predominantly my colleague, Linda Hopkins, who represents the lower river area, which is like Wooler Bridge down to the mouth of the Russian River at Jenner. All those areas had a lot of parks, a lot of public access throughout the roaring 20s and 30s when all these people would come up out of San Francisco. And what we've really worked on over the past decade is increasing public access along the river in the mid-reach. And so we always had Hillsburg Veterans Memorial Beach, but now Riverfront Park in Windsor is amazing, and we're expanding it, and we have the Hanson area that'll expand it. We bought another property right next to the Wooler Bridge. We're using water agency property to get public access. We got a new park going in, one of the first new parks in like 10 years that's going to be in Cloverdale. It's going to be a river parkway along the river. We're working on an Asti Bridge that would have a park over just south of Cloverdale. We're still working on this spot where people go to the river in Geyserville and like securing that as a regional park to manage it better. And then Hillsburg Veterans Memorial Beach, we have this plan. And it's going to take, I'll be out of office, but it's great to start things that have vision. This whole plan for this in-stream kind of mecca for kayakers and others, and good for fish. Yeah. So there's some great things that I'll stay connected to. Oh yeah. But like those things really inspire me, and I you can tell I get all giddy when I talk about them. So and then the other thing is I'm just so passionate about the tribal work. We have five federally recognized tribes traditionally in Sonoma County, Grayton, and then the 4 Pomo tribes. They're coastal Miwok, and you have Kashaya, Pomo out on the coast. You have Cloverdale, Rancheria up near Cloverdale. You have Dry Creek, Rancheria, which is area around kind of Geyserville and over to Dry Creek. And then you have Lytton up near kind of the Windsor area and Hillsburg. And I just love working with tribes too. Their tribes are on the rise. They're purchasing a bunch of land back, putting it into trust, very creative, super fun and inspiring to learn and see them come out of generations of trauma and be self-sufficient and inspiring in so many ways.
I mean, it's a big deal, and it's beautiful to see.
Yeah.
And we're also in a unique place where, there aren't that, in terms of, Florida or some of these other places, like the density of tribes is not very high.
Yeah, it's funny because a big part of that was California law. There was California Rancheria Act, that kicked all tribes off of their land at one point. And so the reservation system that existed around the United States did not perpetuate here in California. There was like an act written in California that was kind of the 4 Tribe Act. So there was Round Valley, Hoopa, and 2 other tribes that maintained reservation land in the wilderness, and then all the other tribes were landless. So all these tribes went back to the process to say, hey, also, you need to recognize me, so I'm a federally recognized tribe. Like, that was an injustice, but then these tribes are now buying land and then converting it back into trust land through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I'm getting deep into it, but people don't, this kind of gets back to strongly held, lightly informed opinions. It's great to be a lifelong learner and learn this stuff. And for anybody who's looking to run for office, it's a great lesson in how things work, why they don't work, what's the death of common sense, what's the way to move things forward.
100%. Well, and speaking of moving things forward, if someone wants to get more involved in shaping local decisions, local policies, what would you suggest for them to do?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of appointments that we put onto different groups and committees, whether you're interested in issues of social justice. Yeah. The Human Rights Commission, the Commission on the Status of Women, things like that. And then we have very tactile ones that are technical, like being a planning commissioner, being on, and reviewing applications and advising on that, and maybe on the Ag and Open Space District, where you're reviewing proposals and loans and rates and appraisals. So we have a litany of those that people can contact our office and other offices about. But also, I would just say the way to start is just to find a place where you can serve some volunteer time, whether it's in government or in a nonprofit, on a nonprofit board. That's what I did. Yeah. I came home from the Peace Corps, and I went to this group that was called the Return Peace Corps Volunteers. And the biggest concentration was in Washington, D.C., and my wife and I decided to live there, Elizabeth and I. And I went to one of their things, and I said, I might run for the board. And one of them looked at me and said, well, why don't you run for president? And I was like, well, I just got back. And they said, yeah, but you seem like, why don't you think about it? And I talked to a lady who was thinking about it well. She's like, I'll be the vice president if you want to run for president. And I did. And then I ran that board for 5 years, and there was 5,000 Return Peace Corps volunteers in the area. And we did service and service projects. And all of a sudden I got this great lesson in what ultimately led me to this. Yeah. So, don't look too far away from your home.
I couldn't agree more. And we're also incredibly lucky to live where we live. There are so many passionate people around us doing so much great work, whether it's really niche or large scope. So
niche. You said niche the right way. I say niche.
Niche?
Yeah. Well done.
Français. But
my dad used to say, I speak French. I'd say, really? He'd say, buffet.
Buffet.
Camouflage. Rendezvous.
Speaks Cajun French.
God.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, so moving on slightly, tell me about this documentary you initiated.
Oh, I want to just... so we were able to get funding through the county into our office for community needs. We did some great stuff with it, and it went into the district. $1 million went into the build-out of the Alexander Valley Health clinic in Cloverdale. And then we were just so inspired by the work of 3 Latina-led organizations. These are, actually 4, Nuestra Comunidad, Corazon, Hillsburg, La Familia Sana, and Farm to Pantry. And we were so inspired by Alma, Rosa, Marcy, and Jade, and the work that they had done in community building and empowering the Latino community and these strong Latinas. And so we were able to get probably I'd say at this point, 1.6 or 7 million that went into those 4 different groups to build out either farms or community centers or, resilience hubs. And so we have a wonderful woman doing a documentary, and it's really on them. It's not about a county supervisor, a white guy, getting money for those projects. It's about the inspiration that these strong Latinas did to build community. And that's how one of the ways that I really realized to be a good leader is you got to find those leaders in your community, and you got to give them resources and find ways to put air under their wings, because they're the ones who are delivering.
100%.
So look for a documentary coming out that's called Raíz de Mujer, which means the root of women, women's roots.
That's
pretty
beautiful.
cool.
No, that sounds amazing. I'm excited for it. So, you've had some great press and some not so great press before. I know. We were just talking about how the great press. How do you view your relationship with the media?
Oh, well, the first thing is I think we're so blessed to have regional and local news outlets that are not dependent only on online, even though that's where things have gone. So, I give so much kudos to the Press Democrat and to the Hillsburg Tribune and the Cloverdale Reveille and the Sonoma West Times and all these other ones, the Gazette, that are out there. And, one of the things I won't go into the larger aspect, there's clickbait. Yeah, there's stuff that's investigative and important. Yeah, there's accountability. It's all just a part of an ecosystem in and of itself. But for me, I'll say on the bad side is I don't like it when my family's brought into issues, and that's happened, especially with people threatening my family and threatening me, and sometimes that being pronounced. I also I had some articles written when I was trying to be very audacious and get into the press. Like one time after our fire, about a year later, we had done all this work to inspire people and provide incentives for them to clean vegetation on their own properties. And there was a report that came back like a year later, and it was really not good. And I was like, I said, and I thought I would get into the newspapers. I said, I'm pissed. I chose that word. Like, I'm not just frustrated. I'm pissed that my constituents in the areas that haven't burned aren't doing more and taking personal responsibility. And it was like there was an editorial written that said, you shouldn't talk like that to this is not behavior becoming a public servant, but sometimes you got to shake it up. And you can't be afraid of that. But the tough thing is that when you get into a couple things, my wife, when I got elected, she says, I want you to think about 3 things in your public life. You always have to think about what's the front page of the newspaper going to say, what's God going to say to you, and what's your wife going to say to you.
Yeah, most important.
and so that you're anything that you promote, you have that system of values and gut check, there. And so it comes and goes. Yeah. But the other thing is that it's a reminder that, like, if you're in office, don't expect the what they call the front page above the fold to be the best things you did. Expect that to be the screw ups. Yeah. Right. And that's okay. It's not. It's because it's relevant. One of the best examples to me of really a gut check on leadership was in the aftermath of our fires. There was a real big issue that was hammered in the press because it was real and it was in the community, and it was that we had not used our alert and warning system, even though we weren't prepared really to use it.
Yeah.
But it was this thing that like the community was saying, if we would have had those 7 minutes, and even even though there was rational reasons, it was a black eye.
Yeah.
And when I was the chair of the board, and I went in and had a meeting with the editorial board of the paper, and I said, part of responsibility is ownership.
Yeah.
And so even though there was a lot of people who said you can't apologize because that might make us liable legally, or you shouldn't say that, you should just talk about the good you're doing, I went in there and said, we should have woken up the world. We should have. That was a mistake, and I want to apologize. And I really felt that that's kind of one of those things that I would have wanted if I was in that situation. And it allowed a lot of people to heal, and it allowed the news cycle not to just focus on the politicians who won't admit.
Yeah.
Right. So that's just kind of an example of it. But,
nice. I think that's a great example.
Yeah.
Well, and I know you touched on this briefly, but tell us about your family and how has this role affected them?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is that I'll just say I got a great life. So, a big part of my decision of not running for the state Senate is not about filling up a void. It's just not screwing up something that's awesome. I've been able to be a county supervisor and work crazy.
Yeah.
And pour just with my team, not just me, us. We have 5 people in the District 4 office. That's Supervisor Gore. I'm James. I'm Jimmy. But Supervisor Gore is really a team. And we have we work hard, and we don't get it all right. And so I just feel so honored to have done that and be able to go home every night.
Yeah.
And be able to not miss important things and to prioritize my family. And so I'm just inspired to do more of that. You got the funny stuff, which is like your kids they're very happy I'm not running for re-election. They're like, oh, good. Are the people going to stop coming up to me and say, oh, I remember you when you were, they're like, are people going to stop coming up to you when we're at the farmer's market and you have to have 10 conversations with people about roads and permits and issues and other things? Are you going to stop engaging with them? Because it is hard sometimes when you live in the community you serve in to create distance. Like I'll be on a date night with my wife, and invariably I'll see like a glass of wine will show up from a waiter, and the waiter will say, hey, this somebody sent this over. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, should I accept that? Is that above the threshold? I got to be compliant. But also, who is that? Who is that?
Yeah.
And then I'll see somebody come over, and usually they'll say something like, hey, Supervisor Gore, I don't mean to bother you, but...
Gonna
and
bother.
my wife's like, we're on a date. Yes.
Elizabeth lays down the hammer.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely an impact. But the cool thing too is that my kids and my family and I are service oriented, and so we see the things. They grow up seeing their community.
Yeah.
I didn't see all that until I really got involved, and later in life, I didn't like take off the blinders and be like, oh, this is how stuff works or doesn't. So I'm happy that my kids, although neither of them want to do what I do. Then it's so funny.
Yeah. No, but they are extremely passionate though, which is, something I think you and Elizabeth have been able to help give them. So I think that's an amazing thing.
See them running after sheep right now. That's the coolest part.
Oh yeah.
4-H's.
It's a beautiful thing. I was always bummed I never got to do the 4-H
hands,
program.
And what are the 4-H's? Head, heart. I just posted it this morning. Head, heart, hands, and can't remember.
Something else.
Yeah.
Well, one last super serious question.
Yeah.
What is the personal cost of doing this job and doing this work for 12 years?
Oh, well, first of all, do you see the amount of hair I have and the pigment? No, I say that jokingly, but I mean, yeah, hell yeah, toxic stress.
Yeah.
I mean, but at the same time, I wanted to eat what was trying to eat me. right? I mean, I had that purpose, and people call me enthusiastic, but I'm like, it's more like resolve. It's not just passion. It's
Yeah.
purpose. I have felt this, so I don't chagrin any of it. Any of the cost, I'm like, bring it on.
Yeah.
Sure, I've had the issues where my, like the really horrible things I mentioned about accusations or threats.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, that sucks. That was a big learning experience and a ton of heartache, and I still deal with that to a certain extent. But I'm not, I'm not here to talk about, the cost is the reward's been far more than the cost.
Yeah.
So
completely agree.
Yeah, I'm proud to have served, and I'm proud to have the war wounds and the scratches and I feel like I'm a used car.
The scars make
And
you who
I'm
you
not
are.
done. I'm not like a car that's breaking down, but it's like we're worn in. There ain't
Yeah.
no new car smell anymore.
Yeah. So used F-250. It'll keep going for another 200,000 miles.
Yeah, exactly. But it's going to be different. I'm choosing to step away from public service at this time and to go back into the private sector. And my goal is to work on things that I'm passionate about, that are creative and stretch my mind. And I've learned so much in this position that, and in the work that we've done, that I'm really inspired to work with people who want to jive with that.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it.
So we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing yet. Exactly. People keep like, "Oh, are you going to tell me when you're ready?" Like, no, I don't have it lined up. Once I made that decision, and one of the best lessons from my mom was always, in any moment of big decisions, is you have to authentically try on both sides when you're torn. And so, when I did that, and when I got to that place and meditated and prayed into it, it was very clear that what the right decision was. It was to not pursue public service in that campaign, or to come back to this and continue to do it. So, listening to that has been a real important thing. And then my wife and I decided to, let's not just, we've sprinted for the last 20 years. Let's not just sprint through this. Let's be thoughtful.
Yeah. Y'all should enjoy it.
So, so.
Well, as a relatively new staffer, I have another question for you.
Yeah.
So one of our staff members is consistently talking about Halloween and how excited he is about it. I'm told that you have some information on this. Would you mind extrapolating on this a little bit?
Well, I know that one guy on my staff, Keith, is just amazing about making fun of me every Halloween. One year he dressed up as me. He got a camo vest and a fire coat, and dyed frosted his hair and wore one of my GSD hats and was like, and had the costume called over enthusiastic politician.
Ooh.
I thought it was brilliant. I like that we're silly too.
Yeah.
I like, our office. I just mentioned Keith. Jenny Chamberlain actually was my campaign on the ground manager and has been our chief of staff since, and her heart is brilliant and her dedication and trust. Marbella Duenas, who's been with us for about 3 years now and is the office aide, but she's keeping all the trains running on time.
Oh yeah.
Chris Grable is killing it as a problem solver, whether it's internal with managing things with lawyers and project managers and policies, or it's like going out and leading a prescribed burn.
Yeah.
And now we got Mr. Harry Hubbell, and I really love that you've been there for some cool things like we've worked with regional parks to stock fish.
Oh yeah.
In Foothill, at the second pond, and over at Riverfront with Steelhead, and we're doing just good work. And yeah, we have to do the mundane and the necessary, but chart your own path.
Yep.
Kill it. Stand up, deliver, kill it, and then pass the baton.
Speaking of passing the baton, you know, I've heard people say that leadership is a relay race.
Yeah.
How do you, or what does that mean for you? And what does, passing the baton of leadership in Sonoma County mean to you?
Yeah, it's funny, that whole leadership is a relay race. I think I might have told that to you, but you
probably
might have heard
did.
it from somebody else. But I didn't make it up. Sonny McPhee, who was the one who said, "It's not thick skin, it's scar tissue." She told me that, and I just loved it. And it goes back to the same thing that when I was 2 years in the Peace Corps, at the beginning of my real public service life, and they told us in training as we were immersed in language studies and technical and in the work we were going to do and learning about the country. They said, hey, if you're here and you do your 3 months of training and your 2 years of service and you leave, and whatever it was that you put time and energy into, whether it was people, projects, or whatever, if it doesn't sustain, then you haven't done your job.
Yep.
And so that's a great reminder for me and for really all of us that that the show must go on.
Mm-hmm.
That, in the sense of sports, next man or woman up if somebody falls injured. And in this case, we got individuals who are running for this county supervisor role for District 4. I'm inspired that they're inspired, and I look forward to working with who comes in behind me.
Yeah.
And passing the baton and helping them in any way they can, but also getting out of their way.
I love it.
Because I don't have to do that.
Yeah, you put in your shift, I love it. Well, I think that's basically it. But seriously, James, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today.
I appreciate you being here. I think we're going to go into specific issues as we go forward with this, but this has been a great opportunity to download and authentic. So here's the authenticity.
I think it's been a blast.
Thanks, Harry.
Absolutely.
It's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here.